Welcome to the second day of 7 days of rest, where we continue to reweave wholeness. Today we find ourselves at Lake Chapala.
And this is one of the most sacred sites in all of Mexico. It's the largest lake, and it is, in our cosmovision, the energy of the blue girl of Guimari, Vitari Nunutzin, and she is the one that takes rain throughout central Mexico. She forms in these beautiful clouds you can see in the background from this lake, and she is fed by some of Mexico's largest and longest lakes, the Rio Lerma Santiago, or also known as Aturrama. Throughout those rivers, there's been a lot of environmental pollution, from pharmaceutical industries to big companies to fashion industry, to a lot of slaughterhouses, and unfortunately a lot of raw sewage and a lot of chemical and pesticides. So it's been very interesting to see these rivers of life bringing this pollution to one of the most sacred lakes here in Mexico. But at the same time, because she is a living entity, because Vitari Nunutzin is alive, and the energy, this blue serpent energy from this lake, she is able to cleanse herself and send all of the toxicity off to the sides, and maintaining her purity at the heart, at the center.
We give gratitude that the stories that we hear of the rivers here in Mexico echo those that we hear also in Africa. In Africa, we have a plethora of bodies of water, of rivers, of lakes, of streams, of braided streams and braided springs. And here we have the longest river in the world, the Nile River. And the Nile River flows from south to north against the common ideas that all knowledge and all wisdom should flow from the north to the south. We also have the deepest and the most powerful river in the world. We have the Congo River. And the Congo River is born from the wound of Africa, the great East African rift, where the great earthquakes and the great volcanoes flow, where in millions of years to come, that part of Africa will no longer be part of the mother continent. And it is this great river that produces the greatest medicines in the deepest and the most powerful way. The African continent is also the continent with the most obscure river in the world, the river with the most obscure roots. This river, the Niger River, arises from the Guinea Highlands, 240 kilometers from the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And instead of following the commonly understood logic that it should follow this efficient route from the high point to the low point, the Niger River defies this. It moves into the desert, it moves into the place that has no other, that has no water. And it moves continuing in this northeasterly direction. And one would think that it would continue that course towards the Mediterranean Sea to join the Nile River as it drains into the Mediterranean basin. But it does not do that. Instead, at the great place of great wisdom of Timbuktu, it turns and it continues a long, sinuous route, moving more than 4,140 kilometers until eventually it drains into the Atlantic Ocean in the Niger Delta. Now, as this river moves, it loses its potential flow. It loses its efficiency. It moves, instead of downstream, it moves upstream at times, and this renders it becoming sluggish. And in this sluggishness, it creates great lakes such as these. In its sluggishness, it creates great ecosystem. In its inefficiency, it creates life. Now this life, this course of this river shows us the movement of our indigenous knowledge systems, our systems that have sustained millennia that have sustained society for millennia, that have sustained the ecosystem for millennia. This sinuous, inefficient route that the Niger River moves shows us about the effectiveness of creating life, creating biodiversity, creating home to more than 40 different indigenous peoples, creating home to more than many different forms of life that are born there. But it was also in this great place of biodiversity that we find a lot of mineral resources, a lot of oil, and as a result of this, we have a lot of ecocide due to the competition for all that which resides there. So once again, like this great river, which is polluted by the undoings of man, by humanity's failings to understand that it's important to live in resonance with the rivers of life, just like this lake here, the sacred lake, just like that, the Niger is rendering itself at the hands of ecocide. We also have the river with the greatest curtain of water in the world. We have Musiwatunya, that which flows and pours down from Kasamambezi, or what is known as Zambezi River. She who flows all the way to the Indian Ocean, going through 6 countries, bringing forth life as well. But this river, like this river of life that we see here, this river is also at the great danger of ecocide, and it is also at the danger of being dammed, the dams which prevent it from being able to bring its nutrients, its volcanic roots, its medicine all the way to the ocean to connect with the great mother that we spoke of on the first day, the ancient mother who births through the primordial waters of the oceans. And so these rivers of life are a reflection. They're a reflection of who we are as society. These rivers of life are also a reflection of the great feminine, and just like here we have this blue serpent who's the feminine energy. In Africa, our rivers are also a reflection of the great feminine energy. She is called by many names. She is Marimba, she is called Oshun, she is called Heteru, she is Nomdende, she is she who dances with the creativity, and she who reflects the sun, she who reflects the masculine, and together they give birth to life.
And that's wonderful to see the connection between Mexico and Africa, because ultimately it's all about a microcosm and a macrocosm. It's all one. And so if we look at ourselves and our bodies as the rivers of life, we contaminate and pollute our rivers with what we eat, but mainly with the way we think and what our emotions are and the energy we involve ourselves with. So that is continuously downpouring throughout our bodies, throughout our circulation, throughout our waters. But yet there's that spirit, there's that energy that we can emanate from our hearts, to just like Lake Chapala with Vitari Nunutsin, that can clear those toxins out to the surface and let it out of its bodies. Same with our ecosystems and our world. Yes, we may or may not be conscious of the way we treat our waters, whether we just flush the toilet and pretend it goes nowhere, or it actually ends up in the rivers and in the lakes and in the oceans, and how we're producing pollutants with that. But at the same time, how the most important thing right now at an environmental and social level is how we emanate our love from the rivers of our hearts to the rivers of society, to the rivers of the world, to transmute whatever wrongdoings we may be doing. And I think that is our biggest challenge that we have now as a human species, is how we're able to make that shift and that change, starting from within our bodies to society and thus the world.
So our invitation is to recognize that the rivers of life are actually the rivers that flow within us. The rivers that flow within our arteries, within our veins, the rivers that are pumped through our lifeblood, through the heart. We recognize that the rivers are those that flow in our tears, that flow in our sweat. We recognize that the rivers are those that flow through the synapses of our nervous system. We recognize that the rivers are those that flow through our thoughts and through our ways of being. And in recognizing this, we may find resonance with the rivers, and we may cleanse ourselves as we come together in community in order to cleanse the rivers. And as we cleanse these rivers of life, we start to cleanse the mishaps of society. We start to cleanse the toxins of humanity. As we do this, we start to raise our consciousness towards that which brings forth nourishment, that which brings forth restoration, that which brings forth renewal. We are the rivers of life. They flow within us to the great expanse of the great ocean, to the great expanse of the great mother, to the great expanse of the rivers above us, the rivers such as the Milky Way, which flows along the same meridian as that great Nile River, the longest river in the world. We flow with the meridians of life. We flow into the great place of Zeb Tepi, the origins of first time.
And with that beautiful flow, let's allow them to watch Vitari Nunutsi in this beautiful Lake Chapala.